Now I have this pendulum bob which is tied to a string, pendulum, simple pendulum. So this pendulum bob is tied to a string. So assume this bob to be a spherical object, uniform spherical object tied to this string. वो हुक को भूल जाओ, ठीक है? So I am holding this here and then I am dipping it into this water, है ना? ये पानी है यहाँ पे और इस पानी में मैं इसको डुबा रहा हूँ. I am holding the string, मेरे हाथ में है और ये पेंडुलम है. So first I am keeping it somewhere here. I am keeping it somewhere here. This is position A. This is position A of this uniform spherical object inside water. Now I am going down. I am dipping it further. And now this is position B of this spherical object. So in what I am holding it, remember, I am holding the string. Okay. So it is at position A and then I am dipping it further and it is at position B. Still not touched the bottom. Okay. So that is the situation. So now your first question is, the force by the water on the upper hemisphere of the ball.
Upper.
Yeah, look at the question. The force by the water on the upper hemisphere of the ball will increase, decrease or remain the same as you go from A to B. Yes, increase or decrease? Increase. Decrease. Increase. Okay, increase. Force by the water on the upper hemisphere will increase. Remain same. Remains the same. Increase. Decrease. Increase. Decrease. Okay. It will decrease. Decrease or increase? Increase. चलो बढ़ेगा कि घटेगा? बढ़ेगा. उतना ही रहेगा. बढ़ेगा. On the upper hemisphere it will increase. Okay, it will remain the same. चलो next बढ़ाइए, next screen. The force by the water on the lower hemisphere of the ball. बढ़ेगा कि घटेगा? बढ़ेगा. बढ़ेगा. बढ़ जाएगा. Weight, force by the water on the lower hemisphere. Increase. Remain the same. Increase. Same. Same. घटा कोई नहीं रहा है, सब या तो बढ़ा रहे हैं या तो उतना ही रहे. Increase. It remains the same. Increase. Increase थोड़े ज्यादा लोग बता रहे हैं लेकिन काफी लोग सेम भी बता रहे हैं. ओके, तो नेक्स्ट अगला क्वेश्चन मैं उधर जाता हूं बिकॉज मिनट्स कम बचे हैं. नाउ लुक एट द क्वेश्चन. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. द फोर्स बाय द स्ट्रिंग ऑन द अपर हेमिस्फीयर ऑफ द बॉल. फोर्स बाय द स्ट्रिंग ऑन द अपर हेमिस्फीयर ऑफ द बॉल will increase or decrease or remain the same? Decrease. घटेगा. बढ़ेगा. बढ़ेगा. Increase. बढ़ेगा. हाँ? Increase करेगा. Decrease घटेगा. कम हो जाएगा. Will remain the same. अरे मासलेस मानो न मानो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. एक ही आंसर है. मास रिमेन्स द सेम. क्या होगा? डिक्रीज होगा, घटेगा. द फोर्स बाय द स्ट्रिंग ऑन द अपर हेमिस्फीयर ऑफ द बॉल. चलो भाई नेक्स्ट स्लाइड. The vertical component of the force by the water on the left hemisphere. अब ध्यान से देखना, आपके लिए इधर का हेमिस्फीयर लेफ्ट है, इधर का हेमिस्फीयर राइट है. It's a spherical object. What I am asking is, vertical component of the force by water on the left hemisphere, increase, decrease or same?
सर सारे का आंसर सेम कर दो.
लेफ्ट हेमिस्फीयर पे पानी के कारण जो फोर्स है उसका वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट, विल इट इंक्रीज, डिक्रीज और रिमेन द सेम? सेम. वेरी गुड. सेम. सेम है. सेम है. ओके, सेम है. वर्टिकल इज ऑलवेज वर्टिकल. धरती के केंद्र की तरफ जो दिशा होती है उसको वर्टिकली डाउनवर्ड कहते हैं, और उसके अपोजिट जो होती है वो वर्टिकली अपवर्ड होती है. देयर इज ओनली वन वर्टिकल, और किसी के रेस्पेक्ट में वर्टिकल नहीं होते. एक और है ना, एक और है. द हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट ऑफ द फोर्स बाय द वाटर ऑफ द लेफ्ट हेमिस्फीयर. The horizontal component of the force by the water on the left hemisphere. Same. Same रहेगा. Increase होगा. Same रहेगा. Increase होगा. Same रहेगा. Same रहेगा. Increase होगा. Increase होगा. Same रहेगा. आधा आधा डिवाइडेड है. सेम ही रहेगा. हॉरिजॉन्टल कंपोनेंट ऑफ द फोर्स बाय द वाटर ऑन द लेफ्ट हेमिस्फीयर, ये वाला इंक्रीज, डिक्रीज होगा, इंक्रीज होगा, बढ़ेगा, बढ़ेगा, सेम रहेगा. मजा आ रहा है? सेम रहेगा. सेम ही रहेगा. ओके. ऑल राइट, लेट मी यूज द पेन नाउ. लाइट. अच्छा, लाइट देंगे ना यहाँ पे. Say upper hemisphere of the पहला पार्ट जब स्क्रीन पे ले आइए तो 5A, the force by the water of the upper hemisphere. So upper hemisphere पे जो forces हैं, they are like this. They are like this. Okay. So what do you think? ऑन दिस अपर हेमिस्फीयर पे जो फोर्सेस है उसका किधर रिजल्टेंट है और कितना है, और इसको आप कंपेयर करो व्हेन यू हैव गॉन डाउन. You have gone down. So each of this has increased. Each of this has increased. Okay. So is there a resultant force on this upper hemisphere by the water? Which direction? Downward. And each of them is increasing, and there is nothing in opposite direction. Okay, in horizontal direction things are cancelling. So if I look at that, if I look at these forces here, these forces in horizontal direction they are opposite and they are cancelling, but in vertical direction there is nothing which is upward. Upward component नहीं है यहाँ पे. So they are all adding, and if each of them has increased, what will happen to the resultant? It will increase. So as you go down, the force by water on the upper hemisphere is increased, बढ़ गया है वो. Similarly, when you look for the lower hemisphere, the same story once again. If you look at the lower hemisphere, the same story once again. The forces are like this. The forces are like this. everything in vertical direction, all components are upward. Okay, look at these forces by the water on this lower hemisphere. This force, this force, this force, this force, this force. Everywhere you have upward vertical component, which is adding to give you a net vertical force. And if each of them is increased when you lower the ball, each of this is increased, then the resultant will also increase. Okay? But the difference remains the same. If you take the whole sphere, on the upper hemisphere, the resultant force is downward, which had increased as I went from A to B. From the lower hemisphere, also I had a vertically upward force which has increased by the same amount, and therefore the net force by the water on this sphere that has not changed as I go from A to B. That's equal to the buoyancy force, weight of the displaced liquid. The net doesn't change, but upper hemisphere increased, lower hemisphere increased. Now if you look for the left hemisphere, this part, now you have this one, now you have this one, now you have this one, no, not this one, no, not this one, these ones. In vertical direction, you have downward component as well as upward component. This has downward component and this has upward component. And as you go down, both of them will increase by the same amount. And therefore, the resultant of these two will not increase or decrease, will remain the same. तो लेफ्ट हेमिस्फीयर पे जो वर्टिकल फोर्स है, वर्टिकल कंपोनेंट है फोर्स का पानी के कारण से, दैट रिमेन्स द सेम. On the right hemisphere also remains the same, and therefore on the total also remains the same, which is equal to the force of buoyancy. But horizontal component, look at the horizontal component, they are not cancelling. On the left hemisphere, all the horizontal components are towards right in this diagram. And if each of these forces will increase, that net resultant will also increase. So the horizontal component on the left hemisphere is increasing as you go down from A to B, but the vertical component is not. That is all. Thank you very much. And this whole session was aimed at formulating questions which can provoke thinking. Right? Cramming will not work. Alright? The number of 100 statements you cram, you will not be able to analyze this. You have to understand the basics, only then you can analyze these things. Now we have to, as teachers, we have to provide these opportunities by formulating such questions which provoke you to think deeper. If we do not give you that opportunity, and then we complain that students are not interested in concepts and they are only interested in mugging things and writing in examinations and this and that, that is not fair with the students. They have to be given opportunities. And the students have also, you can also create the opportunities. Formulating question is not the sole copyright of teachers or authors of the books. Formulating question is something anyone can do. When you are studying something, you are solving some problem, you are understanding some concepts, can you come out with a question which really ignites the mind? You also formulate questions, you solve, you discuss with your friends, you tell that your teacher, you send me on my email, I will be very happy. Anything new created, a new question created, which has a purpose. A question must be formulated with a purpose. Okay? It's a big asset to education system. A question formulated with a purpose is a big asset to the education system. I invite all of you students and teachers. And I am also myself trying to do these kind of things. to formulate questions which can provoke thinkings. Okay, thank you.